Welcome, college esports fans. I'm leaning back to be in production mode. I'm not caught looking at the chat in the client. Welcome to Day 2 of League of Legends for the PACG Spring Tournament. This is the final week of regular season play, Rivalry Week here. We're hoping to get you a match this evening in League of Legends between OSU and Oregon. Let's take a look at the tournament overview to give you a rundown of how things have gone so far this season. As you can see, there's 8 weeks of regular season play. This is that final week, Jahadre.
Yes, it is.
And it is Rivalry Week. And that means at the conclusion of this week, we'll move into playoffs for next week with finals week the following week.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. That means next week, Monday and Wednesday, are going to be the 2 quarterfinals, and then finals week will be semifinals on Monday and then finals on Wednesday, the week after.
Yeah, we got quarterfinals, and then semis, then finals.
Yeah, so 2 more weeks of play.
For us, yeah.
Awesome, for League of Legends.
Yep.
Very good.
So, and then, of course, that's split between 2 different groups for regular season play. We've got the South Division and North Division. You can see that on your screen. Earlier this week, we saw ASU and Arizona play their grudge match for League of Legends, and Overwatch actually was last night. So you can see those are 2 out of the 5. Top 3 for Overwatch and top 3 for League of Legends move on to postseason with a bye to semifinals being given to first seed. So for the South Division, for League of Legends, so far, Arizona will not move forward. It's going to be Arizona State getting the bye for first seed. Moving on, you can see here, there's the rankings for the South Division. ASU sitting pretty at the top. WSU and UCLA will battle to see who will take on Utah on the other edge of the bracket because Utah gets that semifinal bye. And then, unfortunately, Arizona and USC don't get to move on.
No, not yet. But here in the North Division, you can see the standings here. Utah completely undefeated so far. Stanford only dropping the 1 match to Utah. That was a wonderful set of games to watch.
Yes, it was.
Colorado appears to be close up there. Oregon and Colorado are now fighting for that 3rd place spot. OSU, actually, if they win tonight, might just make it. So
it's possible.
There are a lot of things riding on this particular matchup here, especially because if OSU goes 2-0, that means they beat the game score of Colorado and even cement themselves as the 3rd place. So a lot of good stuff going on between the bottom 3 teams of the North Division. But why don't we take a look at today's match? We've already talked a little bit about it, and then coming up on Saturday.
Ooh.
So Oregon and Oregon State tonight, and then UCLA versus USC come Saturday. That's going to be a very special very special broadcast from the PACG to bring you that rivalry match.
Yep, it's going to be this weekend, Saturday. You can see the times there on the schedule. It's a special broadcast because we'll be teaming up with the production team at the Live LAN event in California. Between these 2 teams, they're going to be playing all their different title grudge matches, not just League of Legends. So you'll see us casting those different games. But you and I had some fun filling out some bracket predictions for the League of Legends postseason. Let's get that on your screen. This is my prediction bracket. Now, you can see it's pretty standard up until semis, where I have Stanford actually beating Arizona State to make it to the finals. Now, my prediction here relies on the fact that I've felt as though Stanford has been slowly improving over this course of the series, while ASU, while very, very good, obviously undefeated at the top of their standings, while very good, they've remained relatively stagnant. They've looked the same. They haven't seemed to improve in any way, shape, or form. They're still really good, which means they're in semis. They'll do just fine. But I do think that Stanford might have the chance to take it out.
That's really interesting because we have seen Stanford do really, really well. In fact, I can see where you're coming with that, with their improvement over the season. You know, their first game, I think it was a 2-1, and then the next one was also a 2-1, and then it was a 2-0. And then, you know, the unfortunate single match loss to Utah was an 0-2. But you're right. They've kind of moved themselves away from those really, you know, staple picks where they can't do anything without them. So I think they do have a chance to do that there against Arizona State.
So what are your predictions?
All right, let's take a look at my bracket here. I have similar, but I do have Washington State beating out UCLA.
Talk to me about that one.
So UCLA, to me, hasn't done that same kind of growth. They've, like you said, they've been kind of stagnant. but where Washington State, they have expanded out of that small group of champions that we talk about every time they play. And I think that they have the chance to come out ahead of UCLA just by that alone. But then I do have Arizona State beating Stanford, Utah beating Washington State. Just the undefeated teams, I think that they really are the best teams here in their respective groups. And I think that they will make it to the finals, Arizona State and Utah. But I think I've seen Utah play more than just in the PACG. I've had the chance to cast some more of their games and other things like that. And I think that they do have the edge over Arizona State just in an overall gameplay sense. So the interesting little differences we have here, UCLA over WSU and Stanford over Arizona State. I like that even though the brackets are very similar, that they are that different, that those little surprise wins are jumping in there.
Yeah. We'll have to see how things turn out. Again, we still have the rest of Rivalry Week to play out to see exactly how these teams look coming into the postseason. But let's take a look at the matchup here. Again, we're going to be starting off the evening with Oregon versus Oregon State. Oregon looking pretty. They're going to move into the postseason, no problem. They'll be taking on Stanford. Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah.
Stanford.
Yeah.
So that should be good. Top lane, Bootless Triton, Jungle, bot with my support. I always love that name. It seems to be trolling. And then HH Spanky in the mid with Nidalee One Trick and the Janagod Not Tanner on support.
I love it. And then Oregon State here on the red side is going to be Zoologist in the top lane. Reincarnation. I like that little slip in your own name in there in the jungle. Best Sniper Africa in the mid lane with S. Poly and Svoboda in the bot side.
Indeed. Yeah, and, Zoologist and top lane has looked pretty good. The top jungle duo has been the strongest point, I think, for OSU throughout their season. And so you would be looking to see that kind of strategy maybe pay dividends in this series for OSU, where they'll be playing towards that top side, maybe looking for an aggressive jungle pit. It kind of just depends on what they're comfortable with on this new patch. Once again, this is 8.7 that just went live last night, and that's what we play on, right? We don't have tournament realm access, so we don't get to decide what patch we're playing on. But despite some significant changes to some items here and there, it's still a pretty standard meta that's been strong through the entire season of Season 8. So it's not too much of a change. I mean, kind of just backing away from some things we've seen popping up in the recent patches. The Jinsu, probably not going to see that anymore, even though it still would be as strong because they didn't nerf the item itself. They nerfed the gold it costs, adding 300 to the combined cost. So that's a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's pretty rough. Well, there we go. Oregon and Oregon State, the patch notes. One of the things that we haven't talked about quite yet, it is Rivalries Week. And just like we did with Arizona and Arizona State making the Territorial Cup, I did do a little bit of research into this matchup here. It is called the Civil War.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's actually a lot of fun. 1894 was the first time these guys met. And they've been playing ever since in football, soccer, basketball, baseball. Actually, not soccer anymore. That's what's really interesting. They played 3 games. Oregon State won all 3 of them. And then Oregon doesn't do soccer anymore. So they have a 100% win rate. But either way, with their mascots being Oregon Ducks and Oregon State Beavers, they have a trophy that they pass between them. It's actually a platypus.
Is it?
It is. It is a platypus. I don't think it has another name, but as for those of you who watched on Monday, I built a cup, a trophy for the duel in the desert that happened. And so actually this week, I also attempted to create a trophy here. This is our platypus with a flag. I thought American Civil War was between North and South. The flag was the thing that they were fighting over. So here we go. We got you can't really tell because it's not painted. I called our zoo and our aquarium, and they didn't have any platypus toys that I could really use, so I had to build this today. But
looks pretty good.
I think his name Percival, we decided. Percival the platypus.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
all right, so anyway, that is going to go to the winner of the Civil War.
Looks like you injured yourself making it,
Yeah,
too.
I
Razor
was
blades, not something to just mess
trying
around
to
with.
make the tail, and it totally got me.
Speaking of injuries, we do have word now of a medical emergency from OSU, so they're actually not going to be able to play the game out this evening, the match. So it's going to be a forfeit going over to University of Oregon. The Ducks will take this one. They'll take the Platypus home, at least in spirit.
In spirit.
So we do hope that OSU has everything okay, that it's not too much of an emergency, that just a tragedy that struck or something.
Yeah.
But they will have to forfeit the match. We'll be re-airing our broadcast from Monday, the duel in the desert between ASU and University of Arizona. So we'll go to a quick break, and then right after that, we'll come back and air that replay for you guys. Again, we apologize, but due to a medical emergency, OSU going to have to bow out of today's rivalry match.
Yeah, it's a real bummer.
Unlucky.
But thoughts and prayers and everything going out to OSU, whatever their emergency may be.
And don't forget, tomorrow's going to be Overwatch, and then Friday is Rocket League, and then we have that special League of Legends.
Overwatch or Hearthstone?
That's what I meant, Hearthstone.
Okay.
Tomorrow's Hearthstone. Friday is Rocket League. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Friday is Rocket League, and then the special broadcast, as you saw on the schedule, for Saturday, and that's all titles between those grudge matches. So it's exciting to see that happen over the weekend, leading us into playoffs for next week. So thanks for joining us. Stay tuned, because after a very short break, we'll be right back to rebroadcast Monday's matchup between ASU and University of Arizona, their duel in the desert for League of Legends. Don't go anywhere.